Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, people of all ages, welcome back to the Sticky Floors podcast. I am one of your hosts, CJ. I am joined by Mr. Will, and today we are going to cover Joker Folie which this is the last time you're going to hear me say it that way. For the rest of the show, I'm going to say Joker 2, a movie that answers the question, what happens if you took A Few Good Men and The Silence of the Lambs and La La Land and put it together, what would you get? What would come out?
Wow, that's a weird amalgamation,
and
man.
and this and this is a weird movie. And that's what and this is what you're gonna get. So we're about to have an interesting time talking about this film.
Oh,
If you have not seen this movie yet, there are going to be heavy spoilers to talk about this. We're shooting this basically 2 days after it debuted in America. So if you haven't seen it, if you want to not be spoiled, watch it first and come back and listen to this. If you want to be spoiled, listen to this and then go watch it. You might not after you hear this, but maybe you might still. Either way, make sure you come back and listen because we're going to have fun talking about this
oh
one.
man. Oh
So
man.
so Mr. Will, man, before we like jump into this all the way, I do want to just set the stage a little bit, right?
All right.
So this is Joker 2, right? And so we both saw Joker 1.
Yeah.
And I thought it would just be fair if we at least shared our thoughts on Joker 1 before we jumped in
Uh,
talking about Joker 2. So I'm gonna just kick it over to you, you to just what did you think? What did you actually think about the first Joker movie?
well, initially going in would be when all the leaks were coming out as far as the cast and the potential premise of the movie. I thought I was optimistic.
Okay.
Um, and I try to go into every movie, but especially those pertaining to, say, superheroes, just with no expectations whatsoever, because you know this is essentially my childhood coming into fulfillment on the live screen, and
Yep.
you know you just kind of take what you can get because there was nothing, so you try to be appreciative of that standalone fact. Plus, I was interested to see what Joaquin could do with this with his interpretation, with this narrative, with this focus, because I knew it wasn't going to be a part of the what they are now calling the DCU or
Yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah,
So
that
I want,
dumpster fire.
yeah. And at first they were talking like this was an Elseworld thing, so I
Mhm.
was really hip to like, oh, okay, this might play into whatever graphic novel or whatever
Mhm.
Earth or whatever. So I was really interested. Fast forward though, once I was in the movie theater, I fell asleep actually for like the first 30 minutes because I was like, it just couldn't keep my attention. Um, so I ended up having to see it again. And I was like, this is a waste of money. Like I wasted my money the first time, I wasted my money the second time. And I've only fallen asleep in two movies. Um,
What was the other one?
other one was the joint with George Clooney when he's like a spy hitman and he goes overseas. He's in a little Italian town. I can't think of the name of it,
The
but
Foreigner.
yeah, might be. I
Yeah, The
fell
Foreigner.
asleep. I fell
Yeah.
asleep in that, but that wasn't because of the movie. I was just exhausted. Like
Yeah.
that
I
was a
got
day
you.
of ripping
I
and
got you.
running. But yeah, man, I was not impressed
With the
by
first Joker
with
movie.
the first one. And
Yeah.
even when I saw it again at home and like actually took the time to like dissect, rewind, pause, like I was just like, man, this is this is terrible.
Not that good. Yeah.
Uh,
So if I were going to ask this question, if we were gonna like give popcorn boxes to the first Joker, what would you have put that one at? Because we're probably never gonna talk about it on
yeah,
the
yeah.
show. That's probably not gonna happen. So what would you have given it?
Two
Two
boxes.
boxes. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right. So I would just add that I saw the movie and the first Joker, and I didn't love it.
Mm,
I thought it was I thought Joaquin Phoenix was amazing in it, right?
hmm
And when he won the Academy Award, he earned that, right? So
Yeah.
that's fine. I didn't have any issue with that. And I thought that Todd Phillips, I thought he was trying to tell an important story, not necessarily a version of Joker that I was familiar with or wanted to see. And I think I thought that Arthur Fleck would become the Joker that I was familiar with.
Hmm.
And when I realized that wasn't going to happen, I was a little disappointed with that. But I thought it was all right. I've actually never rewatched the first one. So
Really?
you did. So you watched it 3 times. That's 2 more times than I did.
Well, you got to understand, the first one was partial. The second one was even still kind of partial. So that equals one complete movie. And then the second one. And ironically enough, you know how they do whenever a sequel comes out to whatever movie, they play the
I
original
played the
nonstop.
original, yeah.
Yeah.
I made
I've
sure to not watch it. I
I've
didn't I
seen
didn't
it on TV nonstop, like the can't like the
yeah,
what you call it, the commercials for it, or the hey, tune into da 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 da
yeah.
da
No,
coming up
I didn't.
next.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I avoided all those like
Yeah.
dancing through raindrops. But I did think I thought it was okay. And I probably gave that one maybe if I was gonna put popcorn on it, maybe like 3, maybe 3.5, but
Mm,
maybe,
better than
maybe
me, man.
yeah, maybe 3, maybe 3.5. But I say all that to say is like coming into this, I think it's safe to assume that neither of us had really high hopes.
No, no.
Okay. All right. So that's kind of how we're coming in. So now let's really jump into Joker 2. And why don't you drop that the synopsis on us so we can jump into this.
Joker Folie à Deux, the sequel to Joker, is a psychological, nihilistic, dark, edgy, drama filled jukebox musical spectacle that delves into the psyche of Arthur Fleck, aka Joker, a failed comedian. Incarcerated at Arkham State Hospital, Fleck grapples with his dual identity, blurring the lines between reality and fantasy. Along the way, Arthur engages in a brief and intense affair fling dalliance with Harleen Lee Quinn, which proves to be a major component to his undoing.
Yep, there it is, man. First of all, props to you for the way that you said the whole name of the movie. Like you really you must have studied some French or something because that was
French
like
Honor Society.
yeah, there, there it is. You didn't know where it was going to help, but here it is. It helps on Sticky Floors in 2024 talking about Joker. Because when you said it, I was like, oh man, that sounded really smooth. Like that sounded like he knew what he was doing. All right, so let's jump into this, man. So I know like we have a couple points, and
Yeah.
this is not like probably gonna fit our regular show
Oh no.
exactly, but let's just get into it. So I know that one of the first things that you mentioned, and I saw you kind of thought about it, was like the idea of like that folie à deux, and what does
Yeah.
that mean like within
Yeah.
the context of this film?
Well, I was like, this has to be deliberate. Otherwise, it would have said Joker 2. Otherwise,
Right?
it would have said The Joker Part
Yeah,
2 or something,
which is what
something.
I'm gonna call it, Joker 2. Right?
but
Um,
but it didn't do any of that.
right.
And the thing is that it translates into Madness for 2.
Hmm.
Now that makes sense because it plays off of both Harley and
Yeah.
excuse me, Harleen and also Arthur being insanely in love or madly in love or just insane in the brain. Notice I'm
Yeah.
using songs for a reason to convey this because it is a musical
Right.
and they feel that
Fortunately.
music is the best way to convey this. And I get the whole like him being in this alternative world or Mariah Carey fantasy type joint and he's hearing songs in his head and stuff, but that does not work for me. um
Yeah. You just gotta get right into
Nah,
it.
it does not work. I'm not going to pull any punches here. The same way that we're going to delve into this and provide plenty of spoilers, I figure I'm not going to shortchange the audience by trying to appear as if I am a proponent of this movie. I'm
Yeah.
not. But I can be very critical of the movie in terms of appreciating what the attempts are and what the themes and mores that are being touched upon, because it does speak to a greater societal issue,
Yeah.
and I
Absolutely.
definitely can
Absolutely.
appreciate that. Yeah,
So you knew that this was gonna be a musical going
yeah,
in, right? No,
yeah.
it's interesting because like I've tried not to read a lot about this after I watched it because I
Mm,
didn't want someone else's ideas to influence like the way that I saw it, positive or
okay.
negative. But one of the things I think was interesting was how many people seemed to be shocked that it was a musical.
Oh.
And I thought I knew the whole time that I was gonna go into a musical. But what I did recall reading and hearing was like it's not exactly a musical, right?
Hmm.
which almost like tried to make me think, oh, there might be like one or two or three songs. This is a musical.
Mhm.
Like this is a real like Disney musical where
Yeah.
like different parts of the movie just kind of transition into song.
Mhm.
And some of those transitions are really harsh, which
Yeah.
I think kind of disrupts the way that the film is going.
Agreed.
And it's jarring to see major plot things happen that just break out in the song when I
Mhm.
really probably would have just preferred some exposition.
No, I definitely agree with that. And the transitions are rocky at best.
They are, absolutely.
Very cumbersome, very convoluted. I don't. A lot of the stuff I would not have chosen to
Yeah.
try and do this. I wouldn't have made that attempt. I mean, kudos for him for being creative. You know what I mean? I'll
Yeah,
definitely
Todd
give him props
Phillips.
for that.
Yeah.
But I think the execution was poor. I think that and that's not to discredit both both Harleen and Joker.
Yeah,
That's
they're
not what I'm
they're
trying to
cooking.
do.
Yeah, they're cooking the whole
Yeah,
movie.
no, the rapport is dope. The way that they're able to be demonstrative and full of emotion and trying to appeal to the audience that this is a serious narrative. I get that, and I'm totally with that. But I don't know, somewhere in between this just being an idea in someone's head, all the way to the actual, hey, it's on the screen. There was a failure in between.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. And you know, when you said the part about the thing about it being madness of two, right?
Mhm.
It's interesting with that because I as I watch the movie more, I'm not sure that Harley Quinn is actually crazy. I know that Arthur Fleck is crazy.
Mm,
I think Harley Quinn is taking advantage of the fact that Arthur Fleck is crazy. And and it's like it's an interesting dynamic there because I didn't leave the film thinking that her character actually loved Arthur Fleck at all. I think she loves the idea of the Joker or a
mm.
Joker. But I don't think that she was really like, I love this guy.
Oh, of
And I
course
think
not.
and I think the movie, like the sort of the conclusion of it kind of shows that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 1,000%. I'll go so far as to say she hates Arthur. She loves the
Yes.
Joker,
Yes.
a la like the writers at Marvel with Peter Parker and Spider Man. Like
Yeah.
they hate them dudes, even though
Yeah.
it's the same guy. But yeah, she despises him, Arthur, because he's weak and he's frail and he's not committed to anything. Like he's the antithesis of what she perceives the Joker to be. A
Yeah.
take charge, let's see the world burn just for the sake of seeing the world burn. No one's going to be in my way, and no one's going to tell me what to do. I'm going to come and go, and if you think that you have me in some type of prison, I'm really probably more free in here than what you
Yeah.
really believe, because I don't adhere to these societal standards. I didn't sign that social contract agreeing
Yeah.
to all these things.
Yeah. And that's yes, and that's a good point. And I have a couple ideas about that a little bit later. But to just take it back to Harley Quinn for a second, what I thought was interesting is there's actually probably a more solid idea in moviegoers' heads of who Harley Quinn is at this point than who the Joker is. And the
Mm,
reason why I say that is like since the last time that I think we really saw the Joker like in full Joker mode, which I would say is like Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight, right?
mm,
There's been Suicide Squad, which basically is kind of a Harley Quinn ensemble's tale.
mm,
There was the Birds of Prey and the
mm,
Emancipation of Harley Quinn. Then there was the Suicide Squad, which also had Harley Quinn elevated. And now you have this movie. So in the last like 4 years, 5 years actually, because the first Suicide Squad was maybe like 2018, 17. So maybe a little bit longer than that. There's been a real effort made by DC to establish the personality of the character of Harley Quinn in these movies. And even in this one, it's remarkably consistent in the sense that it has now developed a character of Harley Quinn that is like oppositional, usually in some way, shape, or form, to the idea of Joker and Joker's control over Harley Quinn, which was what most people were introduced to Harley Quinn through in like the early 90s when she debuted in the Batman animated series.
You know, it's crazy that you mentioned these things too, because the movie does touch upon the Batman mythos and also the actual canonical, hard, source material. You just mentioned a few of the movies and even the cartoons.
Mhm.
As far as the real source material, if you will, quote unquote, there's the Killing Joke. There's the Batman Three Jokers. There's even the Dark Knight that you referenced. But there's also in between. Then there's the HBO joint about Harley. Um,
The cartoon is
doing-
out now. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's on HBO, and to further double down and piggyback off of what you said, they actually do make concentrated efforts to display the wide array of emotions and character development that Harley is
Mhm.
on the path of or has been, whether it be the injustice version of her, and it's all displayed in the type of wardrobe that she wears too. So in the ones that you referenced, Suicide Squad, the Suicide Squad, and the Emancipation, you could see like she's wearing basically boy shorts or whatever you want to call them,
Mhm.
to more of a more clothing added on in
Yeah.
each
Mhm.
one, where the shorts may get longer or become outright tights or pants. Um, there's less makeup, or there may be a different shade in the color of her hair. Um, and I think that corresponds with where she's at in her so-called evolution.
Yeah.
Um, I think the other thing too that you touched upon that was really dope is Jim Lee at DC mentioning that, we're going to pivot now to her being the fourth um, important or valuable commodity character, is really what did this. Now, created by Paul Dini, like you said, on Batman, the animated series, she wasn't even supposed to be to the degree of what she is. And rest in power, Miss Sorkin, who voiced her, who just transitioned recently. Um, I think it's a disservice because now she's become basically Deadpool, where she can break the fourth wall depending upon what venue you're watching her.
Yeah.
She can beat up superheroes with powers. She emasculates men, and everyone prides her for it. She's a psychopath and a sociopath. One minute she's this astute professor slash doctor,
Mhm.
psychologist, psychotherapist, and the next minute she's off killing people, and you're just supposed to forgive that. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, look, man, this is crazy.
Well, that's another interesting point there. And we're going to get into this more because I know like we're planning at some point we're gonna do the Venom 3, right?
Yeah.
So there's this interesting thing that I think that's happening in the comic book universe world where now the villains are the people that we want to tell and see the stories about.
Not me.
And as a result of that, the villain has to become almost like an anti-hero in the development of it. So you have to see the transition is like you start off with a villain, you give the villain a backstory that explains why they're a villain. Then you usually put another character, a set of characters that are more villainous than them, that gives them something to fight against, and then somehow they become like a more positive person. Not like a hero per se, but at least an anti-hero. And they've definitely done that. And they've definitely done that with the Harley Quinn character. And even in the Joker movie, they've now given you all this backstory to Arthur Fleck that allows you to kind of feel sorry for him because you almost forget that he also killed six people in the last film.
Well, see, that's the difference, I think, with both the way that Harleen is portrayed, or Lee in this case, which I try. This is why I said I don't go into a movie with expectations, because for me, this is an alternative universe. This is not within the Batman um, world that we know, whether it be the Dark Knight or even the Batman that came out with the guy from um, what's the vampire movie
Yeah,
slash
I know he's
werewolf
talking about. I
slash
forget. Yeah, I know.
yeah, Patterson.
Yeah,
Yeah, what?
Patterson.
Yeah, either way. So it's a separate universe, and it's never to intermingle or intertwine. It's a way of telling a narrative that you don't want to mess up the quote unquote canon universe.
Yeah.
So I get that aspect, But at the same time, if you're going to tell a story, tell the story that still remains true to the essence of the character, because you're just a steward. So in this case, the role reversal or the dynamic has changed between Harleen and the Joker. Matter of fact, their names aren't even the same. Arthur Fleck, is not the Joker's name. In fact, the uh, Batman 3 Jokers actually gives his real name, and then it doubles down on it in the latest Batman, excuse me, the latest super, what is it? Justice League trilogy that just came out, Crisis Between Infinite Worlds, where they talk about, yeah, on another planet, I met, I think his name is like Joseph Oswald something else or whatever.
Mhm.
He's got like four names. But I reference that to say, with this particular storytelling, um, you have Arthur Fleck as a sad sack of potatoes.
Mhm. He
He's
is.
emasculated. He has been abused mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually throughout by every female figure. That, I don't think that's a coincidence.
Mhm.
And then the one who tries to redeem him, if you will, or see him for who he really is, which is an individual who has been admonished and ostracized and just beaten down. Um, it's not lost upon me that they try to do away with her very quickly.
Yeah.
They dismiss her just like all hope in this movie has been dismissed.
Yeah.
It's not lost on me that Harleen lies to him in order to play off of his sympathies as far as coming from a downtrodden neighborhood. It's not lost upon me that she's, instead of her being this brilliant doctor who succumbs to madness and the influence of this larger than life icon of the Joker, is actually the one who is uh, uh, graduate, no, excuse me, a dropout out of graduate school. So she didn't even finish. And her father's not the one who was doing all these evil things to her. She lives with him and the
Yeah.
mother. She's the one who actually signed herself into the hospital to be closer to him.
Yeah.
Why? Because she's a psychopath. She is literally a fan. She's an obsessed fangirl who, like, essentially, she'd be a groupie. That's the equivalent. Where she,
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there a case can be made that the character of the Harley Quinn character in this movie is like the real villain of the movie
oh no,
because
she is the
she
villain.
because she prods Arthur into being along the lines of the Joker. Like she even convinces him to stop taking his medication. The medication was actually helping him. It was
Yep.
actually helping him to stay more connected to reality. Now you can make a case that maybe he was being, neutered by the medication, and that could have also been the case. But he at least he was no longer like a homicidal person experiencing the kind of delusions that he was at that point. But I wanna go to like something else that I know that we were talking about earlier, and that's like just the idea of like the expectations that are had and the unfulfilled expectations that the characters have, and maybe the unfulfilled expectations that we as fans and viewers have for what we're watching.
Well, that's the other thing too. I don't. Here, I'll give you a great example. I know for a fact that there's a lot left on the cutting room floor of every movie. So
Mhm.
I try not to hold any portrayals that we are not given privy to against the actor. So
Mhm.
I don't sit there and say, well, you're not as good as Jack Nicholson, or you're not as good as Heath Ledger. Like, nah, I don't do that. You're not as good as Caesar Romero. I don't do that. I
Mhm.
try to like totally, focus solely on what I'm seeing right before me. So I'm
Mhm.
not comparing, Stephanie to the Harley Quinn that came before her. You know what I
Like
mean? I'm
Margot
not.
Robbie's Harley Quinn.
Yeah, no, either one of them, either Miss Sorkin or Miss Robin. I mean, like, I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to see her for what she is,
Mhm.
and I'm not going to call her Lady Gaga because that's not her name. So and I know that the choice is deliberate too by choosing Stephanie Joanne because of it. It lends itself into this movie where you're talking about fanaticism. You're talking about fans, fanatics, who, if you say the slightest thing about them, um, they view it as a character assassination. That you can't have an honest critique about whether it be their portrayal or their singing
Yes.
or whatever it be,
Yeah.
whether it be Beyonce, Eminem, or whoever. And I like Eminem. You know what I'm saying? I listen to Beyonce, but that doesn't mean that they're bulletproof. Like they have flaws. They do things that I don't
Yeah.
like. And like Common said, just because I don't like it, that don't mean I'm hating. I just don't like it.
And just because you don't understand it, it doesn't mean it's deep.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I mean, I think that the movie is wrestling with, like, for Arthur Fleck, the expectation that the world of Gotham City, which is one of the craziest places on earth, has, like, for him,
Shout out to
Gotham
South
City.
Jersey.
Gotham City wants him to be Joker, right? And there's a failed expectation that when he decides not to, like when he says, like, and he even says, like, yo, I thought I was gonna come out here and I was gonna go nuts and everything. Basically, I was gonna kirk out, but then I decided, nah, I'm not gonna do it because
No, but
I'm actually Arthur Fleck, and I made some mistakes. Like, mistakes were made.
see, but that's the thing. I don't think it works both ways like that. That's why I think his statement where he says these things twice in court is disingenuous. One, he's lonely. He's alone and he's lonely and he's been
Mhm.
abused. So
Yeah,
you can't take anything what he says based upon him being a sane, rational individual who's making a very critical assessment as far as what his position in life is at that present time. He is still amongst being a prisoner of the moment as well as crying out for help simultaneously.
he's doing that,
Yeah,
no doubt.
so I can't sit there and be like, yeah, you know what? That's plausible that that would come from him. No, at this point, he's lost in the maelstrom that he himself has been thrust upon. I don't even think he created it on his own, to be honest with you. When he's sitting in that apartment room of what's her name, Zazie
Zazie
Beetz,
Beats.
yeah,
Zazie
of
Beats, yeah.
her in her apartment, he tells her, "Yo, I'm having a bad day," and he's
Yeah,
under a psychosis where he's just staring at the screen. There's
yeah,
like he doesn't even know what's going on. That carries on when she's giving her testimony and she says, no, he didn't hurt me. His
yeah,
mother already told me that he was messed up. It's severely.
yeah.
She told me that, he's on this type of regimen of medication. This
Mhm.
is the trauma that was inflicted to him. And this is the person who did it, telling her,
Yeah,
like, nah, this dude is messed up. I make him give me baths in his underwear and the
yeah.
brief joints, not even no boxers. Like
But do you think that the movie is saying that Gotham City, some parts of Gotham City, are disappointed that Arthur Fleck does not want to continue to be Joker
I think the populace of those like of that demographic. So you're talking about the young people who just want to see change for the sake of change.
or
I think,
chaos,
yeah, like
or chaos? Yeah,
I, yeah, outright anarchy and chaos. I was trying to be diplomatic and generous, but yeah, those individuals maybe, but I don't think they're fully aware. I think the only one who was aware and who was able to express her disappointment was Harleen Lee.
yeah,
I think she's the only one. The other ones were still in the courtroom and they didn't understand what was truly going on or the ramifications of what he was saying.
yeah. I think when you're talking about the comparisons of different actors trying to play characters, like, it's almost hard to even compare what Joaquin Phoenix is doing with Arthur Fleck to what Heath Ledger was doing with Joker in The Dark Knight. They're so much different. But I do think that one of the things that he achieves in this movie, and the movie achieves it, is for all the reasons that you said, they do so much to explain to you the abuse that Arthur Fleck has experienced that it makes him a tragic figure in the drama of all the chaos that he's done. And Joaquin Phoenix does so much, like, like, I always point this out. Like, he does so much with his eyes, he does
Hmm.
so much with his facial expressions that convey hurt, sadness, disappointment in himself. Like, when he has the guy Gary, the little person
Yeah.
on trial, it's not meant to be a funny scene. For some reason, it was hilarious to me. But at the end, when Gary says, like, you were the only person that didn't pick on me. And now I'm terrified. I can't sleep at night because of what I saw you did do. Joaquin Phoenix does this thing where he looks sad. Even under all the Joker stuff, he looks sad about it. And that ability to do that, for him to convey that kind of disappointment, and for him to, like, start to fracture that Joker from Arthur Fleck, I do think that that was actually brilliant in the
Well, I think the scene you're talking about, goes to, and rest in power, Luciano Pavarotti's portrayal of the sad clown in the famous opera, and then also like with comedians, rest in power, Phil Hartman, John Belushi, so on and
Mhm.
so forth, who unfortunately, tragically, uh, passed away, if you will, for
Mhm.
different reasons, of course. But underneath that was even Chris Farley. Underneath that was a sadness to it, that
Yeah.
they were trying to either self medicate, or they
Yeah.
weren't able to fully combat or seek the help that they desperately needed with respect to the depression that they were undergoing. And I think what you're talking about there is that ability to to teeter the line between um, maniacal, just outright evil, expressing that as like, yes, there exists this terribleness in
Mhm.
the world, versus being a victim of that, and somehow the circumstances that led you there, so then in turn you are a sympathetic figure. Um, and I think that also lends itself to something you said earlier about these villains becoming anti-heroes. I wouldn't even use that term, anti-heroes. It'd be more like anti-villains, because it's just varying degrees of still bad. So there's like, just like the good, the bad, and the ugly,
Mhm.
there's the good, evil, and then just bad. Where,
Mhm.
you know, a bad person, you know, they still have some type of comprehension of morals. Like there's certain
Yeah.
things that even they won't do. Like they won't eat a baby. But just like evil, they're like, anything can pop off. Like
Yeah.
everything's on go.
It's
Um,
it's kind of like the Thunderbolts trailer right now that
mm,
kind of has that everybody thinks that it's like good guys and bad guys, but really what it is bad guys and worse people.
yeah.
Like it's like that reshaping of that idea.
Mhm.
And that's a part of the comic book movie narrative now.
Yeah. And I think the fact that um, people have shied away from the clear cut villain, the good guys wear white and the bad guys wear black. Um, I think that has also helped to shape this new generational phenomena of just a lack of accountability, if you will, a shift in personal responsibility. Um, you know, this may be controversial, but shame is good. Shame will prevent you from going outside butt naked and walking up and down the block like nothing's
Some
wrong.
people. Some
You know what I
people.
mean? Like I look and I see today, like, you really wear flip flops to school? You wear, I remember the rule where like you couldn't wear shorts if they went past your fingertips, but
Yes, I do
nah.
remember. It's a different
And that's
I do
what this
remember. I
and
do
that's
remember.
what this movie is. This movie is more of a diatribe about uh self-loathing and pity. Like there's no reason to continue to say, let's see how worse we can make Arthur's life. You know, we'll
Yeah.
have the guards beat him up, we'll have the guards assault him with their sticks, and they took off his clothes. You can't tell me that they didn't rape that man with one of those nightsticks. You
Yeah,
can't
you
tell
you just
me,
messed up one of my questions, by the way. But
oh
yeah, go
my
ahead.
bad,
You
dude.
just you just blew through one of my I was actually gonna ask you about that because they don't intentionally show that,
Oh, of course not.
but it is strongly alleged that that's what happens.
No,
And
no question.
and once again, like, that's something else that shows the amount of abuse that Arthur Fleck absorbs in this film. It's terrible, right? And it's like it's like it's a really terrible display of what happens to a human being, and I think at no point does it absolve him of the responsibility of being someone that actually murdered 6 people.
No, see, but here's the thing. Brendan Gleeson, who does a great job in this as like the terrible guard, Jackie Sullivan.
Mhm.
Jackie is, I don't know if you remember the one episode in Batman, the animated series, where Jackie's the robot and the Joker's going on a rampage and stuff, and the robot is just
No, I don't
his
remember
his
that one.
sidekick. Well, he was called Jackie Sullivan. So that's it's unique where some of these things come from. But I use that to say this guy's behind bars and he's already supposed to be reprimanded for what he did. And I thought the whole part of going to prison was to try and atone, as well as trying to redeem these individuals so that they can be productive members
Right.
of society again. Nah. And on top of that, what makes you think that this dude is sane? Nothing throughout the movie says that this dude knows what he's doing at any point in time. He
Yeah.
is far from lucid. Even though
Yeah.
he's going through the motion, he's drugged up half the time of the movie. So
Yes.
therefore, there should have been a mistrial. They shouldn't even allowed him to defend himself. But on top of all of that, forget all of that. The dude literally tells you, hey, look, I'm having a bad day, or I'm having a bad time, or the guards did this. At no point whatsoever is there any type of interference or
Yeah. There's not.
investigation into these allegations. At the least, if this guy is telling you there's something wrong here, you don't send him back to the place that he just said this.
Yeah.
They're going to retaliate.
Yeah. Yeah. Arthur. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you 100%. And the guards actually, they also kill his friend, the
Oh,
only friend he had. They actually
no, no,
choke
no,
him
not
out
the guards.
too.
Jackie. Jackie does it.
So yeah. So I mean, it's like the whole thing around Arthur Fleck. Like, I do think the first movie, Todd Phillips was trying to tell a story about mental health crises and
Hmm.
how they develop and how the system doesn't protect people, and then the unfortunate consequences that happen after that.
Hmm.
This movie, I think, is also trying to deconstruct the idea of like Arthur Fleck being Joker to make you really look at Arthur Fleck and say, dang, this dude is really abused. And I do think it's also trying to tell you the idea of Joker is a real thing.
Oh yeah, no
And it's
question.
it's a real thing. And that thing is actually really dangerous.
Oh no,
And that thing can wear the face of anything. And that is something that's a problem.
1,000,000,000% I'm with you. And whether it be the so-called election stealing, the resulting, I don't know what you want to call it. I can't even call it a riot. I can't even call it a coup d'état. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. The affair on the Capitol building, whatever terminology you want to use it. But that's what happens when it goes that far. When individuals do exhibit the traits of the Joker. When I mean, even in when it came on Fox 5, when they was telling another version of the Batman story, when Batman is like a teenager. I
Oh,
forget
Gotham
that's
City.
Gotham
Gotham.
City.
It's called Gotham. Yeah,
Gotham,
yeah,
yeah.
Gotham. Yeah.
When they even do that, it's the same thing when they introduce Jerome, who's another stand-in for the
Yeah.
Joker.
Who becomes the
And
Joker.
he
Yeah.
said where literally he tells you, I'm just a symbol. This is I'm gonna
Yeah.
continue to live. I'm immortal. It's not me physically, it's the essence of what I bring. And
Yeah.
so the fact that, Arthur is stabbed in the gut, like that's not lost upon me. When he's shot in the gut, that's not lost upon me. When he's punched in the gut, these things are supposed to tell you like it's unnerving, and getting a gut punch is by surprise or it's
Yeah.
unexpected. And then in turn, by the people that are committing this violence against him, he would expect them not to be the ones capable of even
Just
having
caught
these
off guard
thoughts in
by
their
it.
heads, let alone following through on the action. Um, I think that the thing too that most people overlook is the movie's not called The Joker. As a matter of fact, the director has even given interviews repeatedly saying, like, this guy, Arthur Fleck, is what gives inspiration to the actual Joker that
Yeah.
you've
A
come.
a Joker, not the Joker. Yeah.
No, well, I would say like the Joker in those universes, not the uh prime Joker, if you will.
Okay. So hold with that because I have a question about that. And
Hmm.
it ties into actually ties into the ending.
Okay.
So anything else like just that you saw in the movie itself before we kind of
Yeah,
get to
before we
our
transition,
yeah.
well, just a couple of things I want to point out. One, most people aren't aware that this movie is based upon actual facts. Um, that being that there was a gentleman who actually committed suicide on live TV, and that's where a lot of the inspiration comes with respect to violence on TV and being publicized. Condolences to him and his family. Definitely tragic the way that played out. The other thing is that the actual inspiration for the Joker, whether it be the look and the performances that a lot of people borrow from, is from a German silent film actor by the name of Conrad Veidt. It's in the 1928 movie and also novel, which the movie was adapted from, The Man Who Laughs, which is basically a
Yeah.
commentary on this particular subject, which is,
Yeah.
holding those of greater power and responsibility, some form of the government or the aristocracy, who are cruel individuals, sadistic, whether it be in English noblemen from the 17th to 18th century or the French during the same period, King Louis Philippe the First or his nephew, who pretty much was the hallmark of the regents. Philip II, who was Prince Regent during that same period, 1715 to 1723. And then last but not least, definitely want to point out the fact of Arthur's name, like I try to do in most of the movies, the etymology. Arthur sounds regal. The first thing you think of, what Arthurs do you know?
King Arthur. King
Exactly.
Arthur, yeah.
So, you're talking about someone of prestige. The next thing is his last name, Fleck, as in a fleck of dust.
Right.
So, you're talking about the king of nothing. So that also lends itself to his character as a whole. Remember, everything in this movie is intentional. So therefore, I would argue that the continuous visual displays of his impotence, of his emasculations, of his feminine behavior are more evidence that proves that Harley is the villainess in this movie, that she is a complete psychopath who has exploited this man at every inch and turn. And there seems to be some type of revelry in denoting that Harley is no longer the quote unquote victim of the prime Joker's misdeeds and calculations and just malignant behavior.
Yeah. And she's also the stand-in for the mob.
Oh yeah.
Like she is the person that is able to talk to Fleck directly
Mhm.
and tell him what the mob wants to see, which is a spectacle, right? Like
Definitely.
even when the judge is like, I don't want this courtroom to become a spectacle.
We already
And
knew what
he's
time it
like,
was.
it's probably a little too late for that.
Yeah.
Like I was like, that's I will say one thing for this movie is that it has this odd way of being funny
Mm.
at points when it probably really shouldn't be,
Yeah.
that I do think is very much along the lines of the Joker.
Oh yeah. It's
I do think it does that. Like
definitely inappropriate behavior throughout.
it's a funny thing, man. But all right, so let's jump in. Let's jump into the cake part. I know you got a couple of things. I got a couple of things, and some of it we might have already touched on already. So I'll kind of adjust mine a little bit.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what you got, man?
Um. Well, again, I don't want people to misconstrue my message. There are a plethora of things that I liked about the movie, as far as like um the thought behind it. What I had a problem was, what I had a problem with was the execution or the actual deliverance of how that message or those portrayals
Mhm.
were put on screen. So I liked the strong performances and the rapport between Joaquin Phoenix and Stephanie Joanne Angelina Germana. Like I liked the way they played off of each other and they
Yeah, they
played to
both
their
did great.
strengths.
They were
Like
cooking the whole time.
yeah, like they lost a lot of weight in order to be into these positions to show the fragility of these two characters at that point in time. You're not going to be robust and bulking with muscles and things of that and looking
Yeah,
very full of vitality when you're in prison. Um,
yeah.
as always, I'm a big fan of the cinematography. Um,
Mhm.
I like the way that the usage of the camera between the balance of light and dark is shifting, and
Oh, it's done beautifully.
yeah,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
vibrant colors, like the suits and the makeup, like everything lended itself and contrasted very, very, very much in a very favorable position.
Yeah.
I also like the I mean, again, just to piggyback off of what I just said, is stylish. I want to make sure that that's hammered home. And then last but not least, I think I'm gonna go with um, the compelling narrative. Like I've talked about it before, but it was more on an esoteric level. Definitively, I'm going to say that whether it be the discussion about mental disease and mental defect. I want to say the importance of the failings of the government and society as a whole and being held accountable for that. And the discussion that people need to have not only on a very intimate level with their nuclear family, but society as a whole in the larger circles that you may find yourself in, whether it be um, your children's school, if you're an advocate there, if you're a proponent there, if you are seeking some type of counseling, which something most people shun and stigmatize. So if you're out there doing the work, trying to better yourselves, and then in turn trying to lend itself to provide that guidance to others and being a beacon, whether it be by word or example, and then finally, just desperate need for reform.
Yeah.
You know, you, I think that's something that's hammered throughout the entire movie.
Do you think so? That's interesting. So that last thing that you said, it makes me want to ask you this question. Do you think if this movie was about Arthur Fleck and had nothing to do with Joker whatsoever, if it would it execute better? Like,
Mm.
let's say there's no Joker, there's no Harley Quinn, there's no Harvey Dent, all that's out. These are just regular characters. Does the execution of it be better? Is the execution better?
It definitely lends itself to it.
Okay.
But the trick would be, how do you get these individuals to be imbued with such gravitas that individuals are able to internalize exactly what it is that they're trying to do?
Yeah. It's a good point, man. It reminds me of so Anthony Starr, who plays Homelander,
Hmm.
right, on in the Boys show,
Great
right?
actor.
He talks about how people will come up to him and say how much they love the Homelander character.
Mm.
And he's been on the record saying he doesn't understand why people are viewing that character that way, because he's actually a lunatic, right? And
Because
that's the
people are
point.
sadistic.
But that's the thing, is like there's a conversation in this movie about how the masses of people will align themselves
Hmm.
with people that they view as against the system, quote unquote, against the system. Even if those people are approaching outright anarchy,
Hmm.
people will follow along with them because there's something about the masses that makes the mass really close to the mob. And I think the movie is also trying to have a commentary about that.
Well, there's that whole thing about the mob mentality and how
Of
people
course. Yeah.
can just join and that normally wouldn't do these things.
Yeah.
Um, well, I mean, people vote for individuals who go against their very interests.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm
Happens all
saying?
the time.
So, like,
Happens all the time.
you know what I mean? So it doesn't surprise me. Lauryn Hill, Bob Marley said, people lie to God. So what makes you think they won't lie to you?
How about that?
So in between
How
that, they
about
lie
that?
to themselves. You know what I mean?
How
So
about that? Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's a good point. Okay. So as far as like cake wise for me, you brought it up earlier. This is a dynamic between the lawyer and Harley in terms of the lawyer really cares about Arthur,
hmm
Harley cares about Joker. I like that dynamic, and they I like how they handled that part. I like the little hard cuts they do to the first movie.
hmm
So like they'll kind of show him sitting on the couch at the show when he killed the main character, Robert De Niro.
yeah.
So I did like that. As you said, her, Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix are cooking the whole time, and really, they probably should have called Joaquin up on Friday night and said, "Hey, doc, you got the Oscar this year. Don't worry about it. We're gonna just let this thing ride out." But I would just say personally, I've seen a lot of movies that came out in 2024. I've never seen anyone do the stuff that Joaquin Phoenix does for 2 hours in that movie where I can't not keep looking at him, even though it's hard to keep looking at him. So props to that. Um, I do think that Todd Phillips, as a director, learned. I'm saying this. He might not. He probably would not agree, but I think he learned some essential things about the Joker,
Mhm.
that he put into this movie that were not there in the first.
Mm.
And those three things are, I think, number one, he understands now that the Joker is an infectious idea
Mhm. Mhm.
that can make other people do stuff that they would not normally do, but can be
Agreed.
given a pathway to do that by the Joker.
Mhm.
I think the next thing he understands now is that the Joker has always had a theatricality attached to him
Yes.
that makes Joker feel like I'm always on stage performing,
Mhm.
even when I'm doing craziness,
Yeah.
right? And the third is that Joker views violence as humor, and
Mm.
the two go together. It's not like they're separate things. There are things in the movie, and there were things in the last movie where it was like it was funny, but it was funny in the context of extreme violence.
Mhm.
So like in the first movie, when the guy Gary, the little person, he tries to let Gary out, but Gary is too small to reach the thing. And he's got to go over and open the door. Like he just killed that dude in front of him. That's not meant to be funny, but it is because it's the Joker. And it works, and even like, why is he in this movie? Like, why when he's a lawyer, why does he pretend that he's got like this Southern accent draw. Why is he doing that Perry Mason thing in the courtroom,
Remember?
talking about killing people? And it's like the part where Zazie Beetz is like, I just feel bad because I would, if I feel like if I would have reported something to the police, those people
Mhm.
would be alive. And the look on his face is like, yeah, they probably would. He got that. Like Todd Phillips he got the Joker education right. And
Yeah.
those are the things that I really liked about the movie.
Yeah, those parts were hysterical. Oh man. I mean, Sophie being on trial and she's sitting there, she's like prisoner, like what is it? Survivor's guilt and feeling
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
she could stopped it.
Yeah.
Oh man, that subtlety, yeah, that was him looking at her.
He looked at us like, yeah, you're right. They would be alive if you would have called the police. Like, dog, what are you doing? Like
And
that,
this
but that's Joker stuff.
it's the same thing too with Murray Franklin being shot in the first one, that Robert De
Mhm.
Niro's character being shot, where he's like, and you get what you deserve. And
Yes.
those things where you're pointing this out, it's kind of like, yeah, you may be the sacrificial lamb or whatever have you, but you are also complicit in this. And don't hate me for being the deliverer of the message.
Right.
It's you contributed to this.
Right.
I think it's that duality that also is appealing too, like that holding up of the mirror and
Mhm.
saying like, hey, I am only reflecting what you've presented. So therefore, when it comes back at you, who are you really upset at? You can't be upset at me because
Yes.
you created me. Like
Yeah.
you did all this stuff to me. What did you think I was going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that African proverb, the child that's not taken care of by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth.
Yeah. Oh,
Like
definitely.
that's what it is. So dig that. All right. So there's also obviously things we didn't like.
Hmm.
So what you got on that front?
No, I had a lot. No, I'm being forced to condense this due to time restraints. So I'm not going to repeat some of the things I have said before. I don't like the fact that the Joker is the joke. He's not the Joker. Arthur's not the Joker. He's the joke. He's the
Mhm.
jester. I didn't like that. Um, he's the complete opposite of the premise of what everybody's talking about and the capabilities that he would display. People, you mentioned in the pre-production meeting that something to the effect, and I'm paraphrasing, so forgive me. You were waiting like, yo, when's he gonna kill somebody again?
Oh,
Like,
I'm getting to that. Yeah, I'm getting to that. Don't worry. I'm gonna get there. I'm
well,
gonna
my
get there.
point in referencing that is he is the clown prince of crime.
Mhm.
That's the
Yep.
description for the Joker.
Yep.
So you don't see him pulling off any capers. You don't see him,
Yep.
holding anyone hostage. That's what even further my point of no, Arthur is a victim.
Yeah,
He
he is.
wasn't in control of killing those six people. So for them, the audience, the court, the jury, all these people, even the guy lashing out at him, telling him don't laugh. Can't you see this dude is crazy? It reminds me of the Dark Knight when Batman is like, yo, can't you see, Harvey, that this guy is
Yes.
crazy?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
he doesn't,
A
he's not
mind
gonna
manipulated
yeah, he's
by
not
the
gonna
Joker.
tell you
Yeah.
what you want. um Fast forward, I don't like the whole bait and switch. And I'm not talking about the musical point, because I knew it was a musical point when they said that they were going to hire Stephanie Joanna. That's what she
Mhm.
does. She sings. You didn't
She's a
think at
singer,
one
right?
point in one scene at the very least she was going to sing? No. And most actors are trained singers. It's like individuals who they may become a psychologist, but they did take some type of medical training. So if they're a psychiatrist, yeah, they administer pills. They have some type of medical training. It may be basic. They may not be able to perform neurosurgery. So in that case, I'm more upset that you're thinking that he's going to at least border or teeter on being the Joker. No, he's a court jester, and he
Yeah.
is literally
And literally a court gesture.
yeah,
Literally, he's a jester in the court. Yeah. That's a good point.
figuratively, literally, he is a jester. And then I didn't like the constant frenetic pacing, changing, needless bombardment of him being this tragedy that is in front of us on the screen all the time. Like it just wasn't necessary for me.
Yeah. I agree with all those. We've said it. I have to just say it again. I don't like musicals, so
Yeah,
that's never gonna work for me.
no,
That-
no,
that's never gonna work for me. So the musical part, that was one. You alluded to it before. This is a shockingly unviolent picture.
yeah,
Like I think I spent the first hour and I'm like, when is somebody gonna get killed in this thing? Like,
hmm
and not like I'm maybe I am crazy. Maybe I'm a little off, but I just feel like if I'm watching a movie about Joker, I should see some violence, and it was very not physically violent. I
Mm.
would say it's a lot of emotional, psychological
Yeah.
violence in there, but it was a lot of violence, and I actually thought I was gonna get that, so I didn't like that part. And then the last thing is, man, I gotta just talk about this, man. This movie has one of the worst sex scenes I have ever seen in my whole life. And it was so hard. I mean, like, I'm not at a stage in my life where I don't, we talked about this before. I don't really want to see sex scenes that much
Yeah.
anymore anyway. But I dang sure don't want to see stuff like what happened in this movie. Like, I'm in the theater, like trying to like not look, and like I want it to end. And it lasted 10 seconds. It should have been two. It was that bad. The 10 seconds felt like 10 minutes. And look, I know like they probably like, yo, we're gonna mess people up with this. And they did, but I don't want to see that ever
He
again.
said we were
I don't like that. So
oh,
that's the
oh,
things that I didn't like. And I
oh,
and I have to say, man, yeah. And like you similar, I had like a bunch of things, but those three things just jumped out. Like I gotta say something about
that's crazy. Oh,
this. So
2 seconds.
so that's that, man. All right. So look, I got some questions for you, man. I got
Shoot.
some questions from watching this. All right. So here's my first question. And this is a joke, but I gotta ask it seriously. Do you think this movie is better or worse if you watched it while you were intoxicated?
I think it would be better, actually, because then you could be like, yo, I'm on that stuff that you were on when you made this joint.
Yo, because now the movie theaters are so much different. Now
Yeah.
the movie theaters, like, they come out,
No, they
they might
serve you
give you some,
beer.
yeah, they might give you some Moet and Sean Don if you got the
Yeah.
money for it. Like I'm like 100% sober watching it, but I was like, dang, maybe this would be better with a drink or something because
Yeah. Take the edge off.
this is not doing it. All right, so that's where that is. All right. You alluded to this one, so I'm not going. We talked about what happened to Arthur in the bathroom, so
Yeah.
you actually already answered that one. Did the lawyer help or hurt Arthur by exposing Harley's lies?
Oh man, the saying goes, the road to hell was paved with good intentions. So, he was fine being ignorant. He was fine living under this cloud of mysticism and delusion. But once she hit him with that cold, wet blanket, it was a wrap, man. Everything went downhill after that. And he was already on a highway to hell. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Okay. All right. Was Arthur set up at the end by the guards?
Good question. That great question. I think he was. Even though they want to leave it open to interpretation, I'm like, what prison do you know? One guard escorts a prisoner of that magnitude and he's
Just lets him.
lagging behind?
Yeah.
Like, what? Like,
Yeah.
he could have dipped off, even if he didn't get murked. He could have dipped off somewhere and hid or
Yeah.
tried to escape. Nah, nah.
Yeah. And related to that is the person that killed Arthur at the end. And I'm thinking he's dead. By the way,
Oh, he is
the
dead.
person that killed Arthur at the end, is that Heath Ledger's Joker?
I was thinking about that. Like, he carves his face with a piece of
Carves his face
glass with
as
the
soon as he
smile
kills.
joint.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if it's not him. It's a great allusion to it. Like,
Yeah.
definitely way that they tied it in, but that was consistent. These little nuggets that they put throughout the movie about the other movies.
Yeah. And then my last question, you kind of alluded this before. There's been a bunch of different portrayals of Joker, right? TV and film.
Hmm.
Which is your favorite portrayal of Joker and why?
Mark Hamill, easily it's not even up for debate.
Good
Um,
one from the show.
uh,
Cartoons. Yeah, good one.
because it
Okay.
was so impressionable, so long lasting, so widespread from video games to
That is a
the
good one.
movies, like the home movies on DVD or whatever have you. Like, he's become synonymous with that.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a good one. I
yeah,
didn't, when I asked the question, I didn't even think
you're thinking
about
live
that.
action, yeah,
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I dig that. That's a dope answer.
yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, cool. That's my questions.
Yeah. All right, man. So rapid fire going with you, man. Why did
Okay.
Arthur say he isn't really Joker?
I think Arthur realized that he's not what people want him to be, which is like this malevolent force of
Hmm.
calculated chaos and destruction. He's not really like that.
Right.
He's a scared little guy, man.
Yeah.
He's trying to defend himself and not doing a good job with it.
No, I like that answer. Yeah, definitely. If you were on the jury, how would you have voted?
He got to go. He's getting the chair.
He
He getting
got-
the chair.
he
He
got
is.
to go.
He is. He got to get the chair.
Really? I'm
Yeah,
surprised
if
by
I'm
that
in New
answer.
York, 1982, first of all, everybody should get the chair in Gotham City. Gotham City is they need to fry. Why do they have a jail? Like Batman, yo, people always say it, man, but it's true. Yo, we need to talk about how Batman either he's got to do a better job or the police got to do a better job in Gotham City. But there can't be like more than 15 people alive in Gotham City at this point. After all these maniacs out here killing people left and right. No. If I'm on that jury, he got Arthur Fleck is gone. He's
Wow.
not.
Wow, that's interesting on so many
He's not there.
levels.
Yeah, and let me be clear. That's not necessarily my proposal on capital punishment.
Yeah. You're not a
But in the
proponent.
context of this film, you were like, if I'm there, he's toast.
So you're holding
Like,
him accountable for those murders. You think he was
absolutely.
sane when he did that?
Absolutely, yeah. He was saying enough.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sane.
he's saying enough. He's
Wow,
gone.
that's tough. That
That's
is
tough, yeah. Sorry
and,
for you.
you also said something too that actually you think that the reason that these individuals are escaping somehow that culpability lies at the feet of the Batman?
No, it's actually the police fault. The
Okay.
police need to build like to his credit, I get it. Batman does not want to kill people. I
Right.
get that. And I understand. That's a core element of the hero. And if he
Right.
didn't have that, he wouldn't be Batman.
Mm-hmm.
But there's got to be something where if you put somebody in jail, they can't be breaking out of jail every 2 minutes, 10 minutes after they get out. Like
But you
they
don't
got to
think
do
that's a
better.
not just
The
a
police
secure,
got to do better.
but not just the security feature. You don't think it's on like we're talking about with the court system to
It's
to have a punishment on these individuals, and if
yeah.
need be, capital punishment be executed?
Yes, do it. Do it. I mean, like how? I mean, like in the comic book universe, how can the Joker be on trial for anything anymore?
Well, he's not. He's criminally insane.
Right, but how can he be like? How can he just be out there? Like even Batman, he couldn't paralyze a Joker by now or do
Mm.
something. Like it's a lot of stuff that's
break his
not death that would
break his
stop this kind of madness, you know.
break his
Anyway,
back like Bane, huh?
that's a whole nother movie.
Wow, breaking his back like Bane. I got you. What happens once Lee finds out that Arthur's been murdered in jail?
She writes a book.
Mm.
She's gonna write a book. She's
Wow.
gonna say that she was in love with him, that they were
Yeah.
about to be married, that she
Mm.
was pregnant, but she lost his child due to the
Ooh.
stress of her love dying, and then she goes into a long career of reality television.
Wow. I can see that. Okay.
That's what happens.
Did Arthur get what he deserved then?
That's a good one. That's a good one. Did Arthur get what he deserved? Arthur didn't deserve to get stabbed and die on the floor like an animal. He didn't deserve that. He didn't deserve that death, but he was done. He was finished. He was not going to be around. That was not his path.
And then last but not least, why does the Joker specifically have such remarkable popularity outside of comic book circles? Why not any other Batman villain, like say Two-Face or the Penguin, who just came out with a TV show, mind you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a documentary called Chasing Tyson,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's about Evander Holyfield, you know, in his quest to fight Mike Tyson to prove that
Mm-hmm.
he's like the best heavyweight. But there's a clip in there where they talk to Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson talks about how everyone has always been so attracted to him
Mm-hmm.
because when they see him, they see the chaos, they see the anger, they
Yeah.
see the violence, they see the ability for anything to happen, and that people prefer that over the consistent,
Mm-hmm.
like pretty boy, like solid image that Evander Holyfield was portraying.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's happened now with Joker, and maybe it's the same thing with like Penguin and Venom and Craven and Morbius and all these other things that are happening. Agatha Harkness is like we have kind of decided as a
Ooh.
society that the hero is no longer interesting,
Wow.
and that now the villain is more interesting because they have the ability to, because they're the villain, they're not bound by the same levels of morality that the hero is. So Batman only is now. I feel like Batman is now only interesting to the extent that you can portray Batman more and more as a flawed person.
Mm.
Joker is flawed, but Joker doesn't have the guardrails that Batman does. And I think as a society now, we're becoming more and more accustomed to liking the thing that is more and more capable of being outside of our expectation because that's entertainment for us.
Wow.
We're entertained by I don't know what's going to happen next, not by I know exactly what you're going to do.
Mm. I like that. I like that answer. Yeah.
So
All right, man. So how many boxes are you giving this joint?
this joint, man, yeah. This is like I'm gonna give it 3, man. I do like I think
Wow.
I'm giving it 3. Yeah. Look, here's the thing, and we talked about this a little bit earlier. I understand what Todd Phillips is trying to do here, right? I
Mm.
think he's trying to tell a good story. I think it's hard to funnel that story through like this world of Joker, Harley
Mm.
Quinn, Harvey Dent, Gotham City. It just makes it so small when you got to operate in there. And we talked about this earlier. It's like Black Panther 2. Black Panther 2 as a movie about a family losing their main foundational patriarch is a great movie, right? But once you gotta talk about like a guy with wings on his feet and vibranium and Ironheart and all what you got funneled through all that comic book stuff, it makes it harder to tell a good story. And the execution of this movie, it's just not. And then they try to make it a musical too, which made it worse. But I will say this. This is the one caveat I'm going to put on this. There is a chance that 20 years from now, people may look at this movie and see it a lot differently.
Mm.
There's a chance they might burn the joint, but there's a chance that they might. But that's what I got. What you got, man? 5 boxes?
One box, yeah. One box. They should have never made this movie. There was no need for a sequel. The way
I
that
agree
the
with that.
first one ended,
I agree.
that should have been
I
it.
agree. This is a sequel that did not need to
No,
exist.
and I normally don't say that about sequels.
I agree. This is a sequel that absolutely does not need to exist.
Because when that movie ended, I didn't sit there and say, "So what's going to happen to Arthur
Right.
next?"
I didn't need it. No, it's like RoboCop 2.
Eh.
It doesn't need to exist.
They just wanted to milk it. They thought that they could get more money out of it, squeeze it for all it's got.
So I got one last question. And I just thought about this when
Yeah.
you said. Is it possible that this movie is designed to stop you from wanting to see another Joker movie?
No.
Remember, and I just want to set it to well, you answered so fast, but let me set the question a little bit more. Remember how people used to say like Lana Wachowski made the Matrix Resurrections because Warner Brothers basically forced her to do it.
Yeah.
And then she was like, cool, then I'm gonna give you this, and well, I don't care. Do you think is there any possibility that Todd Phillips was like, they maybe Warner Brothers, everybody put the pressure on him, and he's like, all right, cool, I'm gonna give you this. It's gonna be a musical. I'm gonna destroy the whole Joker image. I'm gonna make sure that when you walk out of this theater, what you're not gonna say is, I can't wait to see Joker 3.
No, it's both. It's both. Corporate was like, yeah, let's get some more dough.
Get some more money,
And
right?
he was like, nah, we're not doing that.
Right.
And since I'm under contract, I'm gonna make it so that I'm burning everything to the ground. And that's very ironic because that's something the Joker would do. Burn
Yeah.
it all to the ground.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like that scene when Heath Ledger burns all that money. He's burning the money.
That's what he did. Yeah. He was like, I'm not doing this no more. He hit him with the Pierre de la Croix. I'm trying to get fired.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get you to fire me from this, man.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what he did.
It's interesting.
But that's not going to stop them from putting out another, just from the fact of rights and ownership.
Yeah. Oh, they can definitely. I mean, the Joker is definitely going to be another film.
Oh no, but because they own the rights, so they have to in order to maintain the rights and copyright to the joint.
Yeah, but there's not going to be another. I would be shocked if there's a Joker 3.
Not this.
By Todd Phillips with Joaquin Phoenix.
No. That's a wrap.
I think they're both done with that.
Yeah,
and probably happy to be.
No, Joker's going to appear in the Batman Part 2. Watch.
Yeah. All right, man. Hit us with the conclusion.
So, Joker Folie à Deux isn't what fans anticipated. A tourist site for pilgrimage dedicated to honoring the Joker and or a carnival of chaos and mayhem. Instead, it's a musical courtroom drama about a sad and pathetic caricature who admitted that the Joker's a persona and a feeble invention concocted to cope with his loneliness. Now, folks, I had something planned. I'm just going to get right to it. I'm going to skip because this is just, we've beaten this to death. The film offers a haunting exploration of a man who spirals into madness amidst a backdrop of negligence and exploitation. The character's journey underscores a desperate need for understanding and compassion, yet he is met with cruelty and betrayal from those closest to him. His tragic upbringing left him vulnerable as his mother's abuse shattered his sense of worth, and Lee Quinn, notice it's Lee Quinn, not Harley Quinn, not Harley Quinzel, manipulates only deepens his solitude. Society's refusal to acknowledge his humanity further pushed him into a void where darkness thrived. Ultimately, the film serves as a sobering reminder that beneath the painted smile lies a story of profound sadness and a cautionary tale as to what happens when we ignore those crying out for help.
There it is. There it is, man. All right, so that's the Joker, Joker 2. That's what I'm calling it. And next week we will be back with Blink Twice. So we're gonna check that out. That was recently in theaters also.
Yeah.
There will be spoilers for that, but it's been out there for a while. So hopefully people get a chance to hear it. And then you come back here and hear us talk about it. We are in the middle of a push to get to 300 subscribers right now. So if you're listening to this, if you enjoyed this ride with us, by all means, hit that subscribe button and share it with other people who you think might be interested in this content as well. Once again, the Sticky Floors podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts. We are on Apple Podcasts. We are on Spotify Podcasts. We are on YouTube as well, where we're trying to build our subscribers. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, because those things help us to do it better. Peace.